gasp duo emoji. I haven't done my Duolingo lesson yet today. And mira, el buho está llorando. This is a Duolingo review mixed with how I'm trying to learn Spanish, and I'm going to answer the questions. Can Duolingo itself take you from zero to fluency? Does it actually work at all? What is my experience with it after using it for around 2 years? Empecé a estudiar español hace 2 años y usando el app de Duo. I have a 365-day plus streak, and I actually had a 180-day streak before that ended, and I had to restart this one. I do want to say I'm a bit biased though, because I do pay $3 to $4 a month for Duolingo Plus for the no ads and unlimited lessons / unlimited hearts per day. And I'm also a shareholder of the company, so there's that bias as well. Does Duolingo work? Duolingo does work, but there's 2 main takeaways I really want to emphasize with Duolingo. It's not the fastest way to learn a language. I'm sure going to that language, trying to get a job there, interacting with locals, just interweaving yourself into their culture, their day-to-day lives, and just consuming the language 24/7. I think that's the fastest way to learn a language. But Duolingo has the advantage of consistency and fun. And the second one, people might consider that cringy. So before I talk about all the mechanics of the app itself, I do want to talk about consistency. So when you're going into something called language learning, trying to be fluent in a whole nother language, which very clearly I'm a beginner. Duolingo tells me I'm a beginner. I do know more Spanish than ever. I know about 2,000 palabras, and yo puedo hablar conversaciones fáciles en español. Pero I'm not at the point where I could have super deep conversations about like my political biases and my hopes and dreams in my life. I could sort of get into that, but like on a very simple level. I just started learning past tense about like a couple months ago. Yo vivía en Miami de niño. There's like a good 20 to 30% chance I'm saying something wrong in every Spanish sentence I'm saying, but I'm attempting, and that's the important part. That has to go with the consistency. So when you're building a new habit, whether that's trying to read 10 to 15 books in a year, or trying to learn Python, or learn how to make beautiful map animations, you have to start somewhere, and you have to do it at least every week, or even better, every day, to get into the habit. And for the progress, even though it's going to take a long time, it's going to slowly build up until you get fluent. And with Duolingo, with the streak that I was talking about, it forces you to be consistent. If I didn't have Duolingo and I just had a grammar handbook and I would be watching Spanish telenovelas and just write down every single word I didn't know and just translate it, put it on flashcards, and just rinse and repeat that process, you could learn Spanish that way. That's a perfect valid way to learn Spanish. But because of the gamification and all the little intricacies I'm going to talk about Duolingo in the more fun section, Duolingo forces you to be consistent. It forces you to interact with that language for as little as 40 seconds a day. Yes, you could cheat and just do the vocab quick, and then you extended your streak, which, to be honest, I do sometimes. But also sometimes I go more deep. I spend about 15 to 25 minutes on the app completing the daily quest, which is honestly the best way to progress in Duolingo, on Duolingo. If you finish the quest every single day, you're going to progress really fast through the entire map. So the beauty with Duolingo is that consistency. It's you seeing Spanish or whatever language you're pursuing every single day. And to me, that's an extremely powerful advantage that Duolingo offers. And I'm sure other language apps can offer it, but they don't really offer the second main point that I'm making the fun part. Like you could use Babbel, or you could use italki and talk to different people in different countries and just start practicing your language that way. But Duolingo really focuses on consistency, and that's honestly one of the strengths of the app. Because I'm a huge believer on, you could set big goals, but to reach them, you have to take a lot of small steps. And Duolingo is perfect in encouraging that. So the next thing I want to talk about, which might be a little controversial, but to me, Duolingo is fun. It makes language learning fun. I'm having fun with the app. It makes me want to do more. And it feels like a no pressure environment to fail and to just continue learning. And one part of that is for sure the little widget that lives on my home screen. If it gets to like 10 or 11 p.m. and you still haven't done your Duolingo lesson, Duo gets like pissed off at you, and it's like different artwork in the widgets, and it's honestly hilarious. And then as soon as you do the lesson, Duolingo is like posing in like a flower field. To me, that's just fun. It's building a great brand of characters. And talking about the characters, you have Eddie and Junior and Vikram and Bea and Lily and Falstaff the bear. El oso, sí, claramente. The characters
Ay,
all
no.
have unique
¿De verdad?
personalities, and there's something called stories within the Duolingo like course map that you have to progress through to achieve the final trophy and to say you're Duolingo fluent. Duolingo is actually purposely building in personality traits into each character and storyline arcs for each character as you progress through using Duolingo. To me, that is awesome, and that is a great step to start learning language before you could just fully watch a show with or without captions. To me, stories is one of my favorite parts of the app, bar none. I love the richness, I love all the bromas. Es muy excelente. And continuing on with the fun, this is outside the app entirely, but they do make great TikToks. And there's a whole meme of like, if you don't do your lesson, Duolingo is actually going to come and kill your family. That's actually like a running joke throughout like the whole Duolingo community. And whenever you complete a lesson, you get this like super cute animation with like Duo being next to a character. And it just adds a bunch of like little liveliness to the app. So if I had to boil it down to why is Duolingo so special? Why do they have millions of daily active users? It's because the consistency and the fun. And you combine that, that is a great underlying experience to eventually learn a language. So let's talk about the setup of Duolingo, all the different tabs and how you actually learn a language on it. This varies a little bit from language to language. Like I'm learning Japonese also, and I'm like just starting out, so I could say kudasai, so I could say mizu kudasai, which is just water please in Japanese, which is cool. I could say something in Japanese other than kaizoku uri naru wa. I'm trying to say I'm going to be king of the pirates. But the basis of Duolingo had a major shift in the last 2 years from what was a tree of lessons and you had to do the waterfall method yourself to now it's just a straight line of lessons with little challenges here and there and stories now built in to the course, and the waterfall method as well is built into the course. So what is the waterfall method? Well, before with the previous tree map, you would have these different lessons. Like you could choose from like probably 50 different lessons at a time. You would have different levels on them, like 1 to 5. So every single day you probably want to do one lesson in a 1 level, then one lesson in 2 level, then so on and so forth. But now that's all built into the course itself. It makes it super easy if you were a beginner to the Duolingo system. You just get on and just follow the path. It's already made for you. You don't have to make it yourself. And I actually really do prefer this new path. I love how stories are integrated directly into it. And before in the previous method, I kind of just like passed on stories, even though I love them so much. I don't know why I did that. But now stories are a focal point right along the lessons themselves. And the lessons themselves, they take about 2 to 3 minutes, which actually really is a short amount of time. But there's a lot of fill in the blank. And then as you get to like the end, there's some like harder like challenge lessons, I guess, or questions where they just give you an English sentence and you have to completely type out a Spanish response. And that's really for the lessons themselves. Sometimes like there's a little variety in the questions that are being asked. Sometimes they ask you to pronunciate the Spanish sentence in front of you. Sometimes they give you 2 to 3 sentences for some context and they ask you a question about the sentences that you just heard. Sometimes they don't present anything in front of you. It's only audio coming out and you have to fill in the blank on what it is. And what's cool is that Duolingo is using AI to give you the perfect lesson that is oh so challenging, but oh so doable at the same time, because there's this sweet spot of challenging yet rewarding that the human brain just loves. And Duolingo actually has an AI training based off that. which is pretty neat. And I guess in a broader scope, the whole course is divided up into units, and those big units are divided up into smaller units of like 20 to 30 small units. And at the end of each small unit, you get a little unit trophy, and that's kind of like a mini quiz. And then once you pass that quiz, you get to move on to the next unit. And this is a super chill, low pressure environment, which I adore. But what is not a low pressure environment are the leagues. So there's like this league system that as you get more XP or experience points, and you get experience points through doing the match madness, which is like this vocab matching that you just gotta click super fast through. That's how you like get XP super fast. Or you could just do the regular lessons, and that gives you XP as well. You get to climb in the league leaderboard rankings, and I'm right now in like the pink one. I don't even remember what it is, but I know the top league is diamond, and to stay in diamond, that means you're actually like really active in using the app, which hopefully correlates to you learning the language, which in my opinion it does. So if you really want to squeeze the most out of Duolingo, do your daily quest every single day and stay in the diamond league. I'm right now not in it, so you can see I've been slacking with my language learning slightly. And overall, I do want to say that I think Duolingo is most beneficial when you're like just starting out learning a language. Because if you stay on Duolingo and only do Duolingo, you will experience like kind of this intermediate kind of delay or sluggishness or just dawdling around in the intermediate range. Because to get from, I guess, intermediate to advanced, you have to do a lot of outside language material outside of Duolingo. So that's talking with people that speak the language. I can actually speak to my dad who's fluent in Spanish because he was born in Cuba. Or you find someone online to talk to, or you start watching different shows and movies in that target language, and you add that additional material, because Duolingo is really best in the beginning, and I think the advantages of Duolingo start to taper off as you get closer and closer to fluency. And I guess I'm answering that right now. Duolingo won't take you to fluency itself, but I think it's a great companion to get you there. Alongside using Duolingo, I've been listening to Bad Bunny a ton. He was my number one Spotify Wrapped artist last year. I know so many different Puerto Rican slang words. Chingar is to like have sex, but like sexy sex. Bellaco is horny. Totito is tight vagina. I don't know if I should be saying this or not, but yeah, I know a bunch of Puerto Rican slang from Bad Bunny songs, but also get used to like hearing the language, how it's pronounced. One of my favorite quotes of Bad Bunny is "Tengo todo lo que necesito." I have everything I need, which is a great quote. Overall, I definitely recommend listening to some Spanish music on the side. I have a whole playlist filled with like 120, 130 songs. And reggaeton music actually is amazing. By the way, all languages aren't created equal. So if you want to go from like, I don't know, English to learning like Arabic compared to English to Spanish, the English to Spanish course gets like the most priority on Duolingo. It's kind of like being a male with property back in like the 1500s in England. Like that course has the most priority, and then everything else is just like, who cares about that? There's some substance in like the hundreds of languages that Duolingo provides, but the main top ones, the most popular ones, get the most priority, which makes sense because that attracts the most users, and Duolingo is a company, so they want to make the most revenue. So, it's the wheel. That makes sense. I do love Duolingo's new avatar feature. So Duolingo has a very like specific artistic style. It's not like overly drawn cartoon lines, but it's very simplistic. The shapes are just super geometric and spherical. It's beautiful. And it's kind of like make your own me character that used to be on the Wii in Duolingo with your avatar. That's great. Duolingo has these like videos that just showcase off a little bit of style with Spanish, like the two different words for avocado in between Latin America and South America, which I actually saw on my Chipotle avocado shipment box in between aguacate y pata. So those two words, Duolingo has like a little segment on that. Another segment talking about besitos and how you greet people in Spanish. Fun little videos like that. that I don't think any other language learning platform offers. And for me personally, I don't think you could create a better language learning mobile app. You could also pull up your Duolingo account on the web, but I think mostly everyone uses it on their phone. I don't think you could honestly create a better language learning app. I love the frequency that Duolingo, the company, is doing A and B testing. So uh, half the users are going to have this one feature that they're testing, and half the users are going to have this other feature. And Duolingo is actually one of the very few apps that have their notifications turned on because they have a whole AI just suggesting the best notification for the right moment. I love learning Spanish on Duolingo, and just talking about Spanish in general. It is such a similar language to English that it's sort of impressive, especially compared to like English to Japanese. Like the Japanese language doesn't have any spaces like in its writing system. The writing system, these really intricate characters they have to learn. Like sushi is just like these two characters. Compared to Spanish, when you want to say superstar in English, translate that to Spanish, it's literally super estrella. How cool is that similarity? I love how all the transition words in English get translated a specific way to Spanish, like frecuentemente to frequently, or honestamente to honestly, or generalmente to generally, or precisamente to precisely, or exactamente to exactly. And before using Duolingo, I knew the super basic arroz y frijoles, ¿cómo está? Estoy bien, ¿y tú? I knew like the very basic like hola, adios. But now that I've been learning Duolingo, I've been embracing Spanish culture, Hispanic culture. It's so rich, and it's something that I should have done way earlier, especially considering mi padre es de Cuba. Spanish itself is kind of like English, pero picante version of it. I don't know if it's just me, but Spanish just feels so passionate, and it's always cool how a language could shape how you think. Like in Spanish, they split every single noun into like feminine and masculine, and the sun is called El Sol, so that kind of implies a masculine undertone to the sun, while the moon is La Luna. So the moon is more feminine, and it's a very subtle way of like thinking in the language, but there's so much more than what I just said when it comes to how does your mind change when you speak in that language. I've actually had very limited conversations with people who have only spoke Spanish, and my like minimal way to communicate actually does work. There's definitely a lot of friction, but I can communicate with people who don't speak English at all or speak English very little. And that's like an example of like when I work at Chipotle in Miami, a lot of the workers there basically only speak Spanish. I'm half embarrassed that I've waited this long to learn Spanish, but then on the other side, I'm very glad I've come this far and I do have a lot more to go. Ay cabrón, papi, ay cabrón.